that it seems to lack capacity to accomplish. The task of fighting corruption is huge. It's not a tea party. It's not something you do and look back. It's like a man who is heading towards heaven. Suddenly he decides to be answering the call of Satan. He will certainly miss his way. So if government wants to fight corruption, it's holistic. It has to be. If not, we are just scratching the surface. And I see the political class as just ordinary surface of fighting corruption. We have not got into the civil service, where the genesis of corruption is sown, is rooted, is planted, and the civil servants who are on no salary are living a life far above their means. Nothing is happening there before you even talk about public sector. And let me say this. Most Nigerians are happy to see corruption, even though they hated corruption. Because one of the reasons why people are complaining now that there is no money is because access to money in the manner in which we used to have them and the affluence in which is displayed at public functions, at weddings, at party conventions seems to have been a little bit blocked. But what we do not have now is open stealing. That does not mean that there is no stealing going on. Mr.
Okutepa, I want to come in here because you mentioned something very critical, which was, for example, the headship of ICPC and the non-confirmation of some of these appointments that were sent to the Senate. Now, when you talk about institutions, you essentially kind of offered this idea that the federal government is essentially trying to go to heaven but listening to the call of Satan. And I want to ask you, what about those who say that there are forces actively fighting the federal government's effort? When you talk about the Senate, 20 senators, as it is right now, are battling EFCC cases. They're battling Magu directly right now. And we know that that is a critical issue in terms of the embargo on these appointments to head these corruption agencies.
That's the point I'm making. Now, if you look at the provisions of our Constitution, the National Assembly has a constitutional duty within the definition of their oversight function to fight and expose corruption. Now, in doing so, in oversight function, they are doing so with a view to making law to abolish and eradicating corruption. But how many of the National Assembly members want to make law to put time bar or time frame within which to conclude criminal prosecution, when in fact they have no immunity, they can be arrested, they are, with respect, there's some allegations against them. What they did, like my learned brother Silk just rightly referred to, was in respect of election petition. They just quickly amended the provisions of the Constitution, Section 285, and it cited subsection 7 to say, look, election petition must be filed within a given number of days, appeal must be concluded within a given number of days, and so on and so forth. But once you talk about that, that's National Assembly institution. What about professional association institution? That's what Dr. Paul Ananaba made mention of. In other claim, when a lawyer filed frivolous applications, he is suspended from practice. But to suspend a lawyer in Nigeria is like a camel going through the eyes of a needle.
Dr.
Because
Ananaba,
of the cumbersome procedure leading to it.
But this is part of what we're talking about. When you look at the NJC, for example, you talk about the NBA as a professional organization as an example, and you know that heavy state resources from states and from the federal government over time have flooded and divided these critical institutions. How then are they able to come together and gather up a consensus about the need to fight corruption, if we're being very realistic with ourselves?
Well, like my brother has said, incidentally, he's the prosecutor for...
No, I used to be.
He used to be prosecutor.
I was there for 5.5 years.
At the disciplinary committee of the bar. So he was talking from experience. You know the number of lawyers we have, what is the capacity to meet up with all this? So of course, there's been a call, there's been move for commission and all that. The Bar Association is doing its part. But away from that, We have a serious matter in our hands. And my brother has also alluded to it so much. Corruption is not something that only the courts will fight. Only ICPC or EFCC will fight. What about moral and ethical rebate? I was in this country, and I was growing up in this country when there was MAMSA and there was War Against Indiscipline. You will get to Lagos and every other major cities and see people on queue on their own. You see people no longer urinating on the streets or doing all kinds of things. The law does not change so many people. The law actually goes for deviance. When you have been able to harvest the good. What is happening to the orientation agency and other agencies? My brother was talking about civil service. Is it only politicians that are corrupt? The civil service is there. Professional associations are there. The private sector is there. You were talking about bank chiefs and workers.
Not just bank chiefs, but even politicians who use their private businesses to take debts.
Even politicians and all that. Then, if